Hi guys, it's been a while since I've done a movie review, but I thought I'd start off 2019 by looking back at my top 10 favourite films of 2018.
Don't you know you're queen?
So in no particular order, let's start off with Phantom Thread. Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film is about a ladies' clotheswear designer who falls in love with a waitress and she becomes his latest muse. Now, I think it's evident from Paul Thomas Anderson's past few films that his multi-story way of storytelling is out the window, and now he concentrates on one main story and really makes it really rich with his writing style and his direction. And Phantom Thread is definitely no change there. The performances, especially from Daniel Day-Lewis, is fantastic, and there's some really haunting imagery mixed in with fashion that just really gives a different view on the fashion scene that we've seen before. Next up is Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. Now, this film seemed to be quite divisive for a lot of people, but I personally loved it. I just thought Sally Hawkins was fantastic, and seeing as she barely says a word in the film, she really managed to portray a mute character in such a beautifully wonderful way that I thought the film kind of came across as very French in a way. Very much like Jean-Pierre Jeunet's film. Of course, because it's a Guillermo del Toro film, there are scenes of violence and the story gets a bit dark at times. I just thought The Shape of Water was fantastic. Lady Bird was Greta Gerwig's directorial debut, and what a fantastic debut it was. I thought Saoirse Ronan was fantastic, and even though we get many films like this and we've had them before, there just seemed to be something a bit more honest about this, about the storytelling. Everything was small scale and intimate, so you could really feel for these characters, especially this contrasting relationship between Saoirse Ronan's character Lady Bird and her mother. Now, Annihilation didn't actually come to cinemas in the UK, but it did in the US, and even though we got a Netflix debut of it, it just had to be included on my top 10 list films of last year because it was just fantastic. I thought Alex Garland was on top form again for his writing and his directing, and this is only his second film, so to go from a writer to a director but with such strong vision is just fantastic, really. Natalie Portman was amazing as usual, and even though Oscar Isaac isn't in it so much, his performance was still enough to kind of give a driving force behind Natalie Portman's character. There's some fantastic scenes of real horror and also true beauty, and sometimes at the same time, which made Annihilation just very different for me and just so thought-provoking, especially the ending. Now, Love, Simon may not seem like a big deal, but it is actually the first mainstream teen comedy that features a gay character. So even though that the story is a bit cliched and it's not really a true insight into what it might be like for a gay teenager to come out, especially in America, it's definitely a foot in the right direction. And it was very cute and very sweet and very funny in places, and I think the cast just all did a really good job. And because of that, I just found myself falling in love with the film. I just thought I could see certain aspects of Simon in myself and kind of what I kind of envisioned coming out would be for myself. I honestly believe that Toni Collette deserves an Oscar for her work in Hereditary. The film was just written so well and directed immaculately that her performance just was the icing on the cake, really. I think if you had someone else in this film, they might not have been able to sell it as well as she did. She was really a grieving parent, and the way the emotion comes across in this story just really pushes the directions that it takes, and it's got some really surprising twists. And the tension was really built up really well. And I don't think my palms have ever been that sweaty watching a film since Mother. I wasn't exactly sure what to expect going into watching BlacKkKlansman. I mean, it looked funny and we knew it was going to be based on a true story. But Spike Lee's films for the past few years have just been very hit and miss, and he hasn't had a true hit for quite a few years now. But the film was pretty fantastic, and the only thing I was missing was emotion, and that changed in the last 5 minutes. The way they used real footage at the end just really hammered home the point and just made the film so full of emotion that even though you've been laughing and going along with these characters for the past 2 hours, it just puts everything into perspective. Damien Chazelle has really built up quite a filmography with only 3 films. First Whiplash, then La La Land, and now First Man. All 3 films are completely different, but all 3 films have such emotion, and even though they may be big on scale, feel so intimate and so private to these people's lives that you just can't help but feel like you're part of the action. The way First Man was shot just makes you feel like you was actually there inside the cockpits with these people. Even though he doesn't show much of what you would normally see in these type of films, it just made you feel the horrors of actually being inside one of these shuttles and not actually seeing what's going on outside and just hearing all these crazy noises. It just made the film really tense for me. Assassination Nation was a film I was looking forward to for a very long time. It came out in America quite a while ago, but only came out towards the end of last year in the UK. And I was a bit worried when it started because a disclaimer comes up saying that this film features things like racism, homophobia, transphobia, and I didn't want it to be glamorized or made it seem like it was a good thing. But once the film had finished, I just realized what an impactful film it actually was, especially in this day and age. It's like a modern day Salem witch trials, but in such a realistic way that when the shit hits the fan, you can actually imagine this happening today in America because of the current political climate. The remake of Suspiria has also been a very divisive film. It's ditched the colour palette and the overbearing synth soundtrack of the original, and it's gone for gritty, realistic and raw Berlin. And for me, that was fantastic, because when you see a remake, you don't want to see what they've done before. You want to see something new. I thought the film was horrific, it was disgusting, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. The performances were fantastic, and the story just goes in places that you're not going to expect. And thanks to the direction, this is just something completely different from what you've seen before. I have to give a special shout out to the documentary McQueen. It's one of the best documentaries I've seen for a very long time, and really put you into the mindset of this designer, Alexander McQueen, who you may have not realised the issues he had going on in his life and in his mind, and how taking someone out of their normal surroundings can actually impact them in a negative way, even if it's for fame and glamour. Okay, so that's my top 10 of 2018. I hope to bring you some more movie reviews this year. Until then, I'll see you soon.